Welcome back. Hope you all enjoy our tea break. Our next speaker hails from Ireland and has over 30 years of experience working in Irish TV and radio. Currently, he heads up the new Irish language television service, TG Cathach. Right now, over 800,000 viewers tune into the channel every day, and TG Cathach has a 3% audience share of the national television market. Now let's welcome Paul O'Gallagher, Chief Executive of Ireland's TG Cathach, to tell us about TG Cathach's strategic operating environment and digital future.
A chaithirlaí agus a chairde is our broad agus a heistú a bheith seo a daid tung ag an dara cógáil don na Caoltarí telefíse dúchas a hab. TG Cathach is the National Irish Language Television Service. It's a free-to-air public service broadcaster established by statute and funded by government to deliver a full range of quality Irish language content to audiences at home and abroad. Firstly, a few station idents. In fulfilling its mandate, TG Cathach is required to cater for those of all age groups in the community whose preferred spoken language is Irish or who otherwise have an interest in Irish. However, not only does TG Cathach cater for those with an interest in the Irish language, but also for those in the community who have an interest in Irish culture, in particular people who may enjoy music and sport. Our aim is to continue to successfully promote the Irish language and culture through television and web content, to ensure a central place in Irish people's lives, both in Ireland and abroad. TG Cathach's mission is to provide an attractive and innovative television and content service in Irish that celebrates Irish creativity and identity, language, culture, music and sport, packaged and presented to be accessible and appealing in order to connect to audiences in Ireland and worldwide. TG Cathach, as an Irish language broadcaster, operates mainly in the television market in Ireland, but also in the global content market. The Irish broadcast television market is one of the most competitive in Europe, with an audience entirely fluent in English, the dominant language of the global film and television industry. There are many factors that influences our operating environment: the audience and the market, government policy and legislation in relation to the Irish language and broadcasting, the advertising market, the independent TV sector, and without doubt, the economic environment. Since its establishment, TG Cathach has carved out a strong and vibrant position in the Irish broadcasting landscape. Over 800,000 viewers tune into the channel every day in the Republic, and its national audience share averaged 3% in 2009, an increase of 4% on the channel's 2008 national audience share. The television market environment in Ireland is one of the most competitive in Europe, with the Irish broadcasting market having changed immeasurably since TG Cathach came on air in 1996. It has grown with the arrival of many new entrants, both domestic and international. The almost universal availability in Ireland of hundreds of channels on satellite, cable and MMDS has altered its nature, scope and dynamics. On the island of Ireland, there are three main platforms for television distribution. The Republic of Ireland is regulated by the Irish Government, and Northern Ireland is regulated by the UK Government. In 1996, when TG Cathach was established, there was only analogue TV reception in Ireland. 48% of the population received their pictures via cable or satellite, and 52% from analogue terrestrial. Today, cable and satellite has increased to 66%. But for the Indigenous broadcaster, a more relevant and important factor is the digital rollout. In recent years, digital satellite is universally available, and cable providers continue to roll out a digital service to their customers. DTT, Digital Terrestrial Television, should have commenced in Ireland last year. The main public service broadcaster, RTE, has been charged with the PSB DTT MUX, but the licences for the remaining 3 commercial MUXes have yet to be taken up. In the meantime, digital penetration in the Republic of Ireland continues to grow from under 50% 3 years ago to 66% for the first quarter of this year. Meanwhile, a DTT rollout has begun in the UK, and DTT rollout in Northern Ireland is planned for 2012. The story of the Irish language over the past 200 years has been one of decline for the most part, with 1 or 2 positive developments towards the end of the 19th and 20th centuries. In the 19th century, famine, emigration to the UK and to the New World, alongside the colonisers' policy of Anglicisation of both the educational and public service, led to a massive decrease in both the numbers of people speaking Irish and in the regions in which Irish was the spoken language of the community. The rise of nationalism and the struggle for cultural and political independence in the first 20 years of the 20th century led to a new interest in Irish and to a strong status for the language in the educational and public service of the new Irish Free State established in 1923. However, despite this official support, the decline of the language in the rural areas continued, and many of those forced to learn Irish in school became cynical about it and about state supports. Irish was seen by some as a relic of the past or as a status symbol of the new elite. However, there has been, over the past number of years, a resurgence of interest in the language, as the latest census indicates. Ireland has a population of 4.2 million people, and in the last census, 1.7 million people claim to have some fluency in the language, about 40%, a 10% increase over the last 20 years. Political attitudes toward the Irish language have undergone a radical change in the decades since TG4 came into existence, reflecting public and media opinion. In late 2009, a new 20-year strategy for the Irish language, 2010-2030, for the development and promotion of the Irish language was published by the Irish government. As the National Irish Language Public Service broadcaster, TG4 aims to be a pivotal player in this strategy and to build on its success to date in promoting and developing the Irish language and culture. The government strategy contains many references to this crucial importance of media and technology generally, and of the states of TG4's role specifically in the implementation of this strategy. TG4 is a commissioning house and sources most of its production and programming from the independent production sector. There are 300 people full-time employment in the independent sector working directly for the station, and a further 1,200 people part-time. But the Irish language television, independent television production sector is a relatively young one, and as such remains very vulnerable. TG4 is anxious to maintain its close links with emerging companies and to work in partnership to ensure the ongoing viability of a vibrant independent production sector creating high-quality Irish language content. TG4 must continue to support the regionalisation of the independent production sector in Ireland, the nurturing of Irish talent, and ensuring that Ireland and TG4 has a vibrant production sector from which it can source unique, entertaining and innovative content. The television advertising market is directly linked to the overall performance of the economy, and as 2008 and 2009 have experienced significant economic downturns, this has impacted Irish expenditure on television advertising and naturally has a knock-on effect on the volume and quality of original productions. In 2007, €374 million was spent in the Irish TV advertising market. That was 24% of the total advertising market in Ireland. There was a 1% drop in 2008, but for 2009 there was a 29% decline to €260 million. All the advertising sources have declined. 38% outdoor, a decline of 35% on print, 29% decline on TV, and 5% online. And the forecast for 2010 from some quarters is that the decline will continue, but there is a good degree of optimism that fortunes may change. The general belief is that our recession in Ireland is deeper and that it will take a year or two longer for us to recover. Over the past year, TG4 has researched and commissioned a new digital asset management system, DAM. DAM is a system whereby a tape or programme asset, as well as all the information pertaining to that programme, including music, scripts, etc., can be stored and then shared from one central location. Tapes are digitised and stored in a digital archive. The scripts, music and production documentation are also stored centrally. Browsed copies are available along with programme metadata to all staff at their desktops. Once a programme has been digitised, it can be transmitted several times without any human interaction. The key benefits in TG4 are staff savings, more efficient archiving, operational ease, and of course, external access. A key development of the digital age has been the internet, and this is likewise having an impact on broadcasting or indeed on anyone in the content business. The web TV service on tgcahar.ie delivers the channel's Irish language content worldwide. The new service will provide an uninterrupted live stream which will include our own live Irish language output, with any gaps filled by secondary event playlists broadcasting progressive streams from 400 to 1200 kilobytes per second. This new and improved web service will be fully launched in 2 weeks' time and will be a huge improvement and benefit to our audience worldwide. As I said earlier, the rollout of DTT in Ireland should have commenced last year, and it was planned that it would be complete by 2012, when we would have analogue switch off. And there are many challenges, including the Irish terrain, the cost and the uptake. The provision of 13 main transmitter sites will provide DTT cover for 80% of the country. A further 40 masts will increase DTT penetration to 92%. This is a huge challenge for us, but especially to TG4, as a vast majority of our core audience reside in rural areas. Another challenge is that satellite and cable platforms are many years ahead of us, and if DTT does not have a critical mass of channels available, it may not be a viable business venture. The road ahead will be very challenging. There are a broad array of opportunities and challenges facing TG4. The channel must sustain its position as a distinctive central player in the very competitive television market in Ireland by maintaining a unique relationship with a growing audience base and by keeping ahead of technological and market trends. The scale of TG4's ambition to deliver on this strategy is dependent, however, on both the realisation of an increase in funding and ensuring prominent and total availability on all digital platforms. However, TG4's strategy recognises the extremely challenging economic and financial environment and acknowledges that finding the additional funding to sustain and further develop the service over the coming years will not be easy. TG4 has been a major success for the Irish language, probably the most popular, positive and accessible measure to promote it for generations. And here is a short clip of TG4 programming in our schedules.
Siad scéal. Seachtain ó hin I ra am lón, Bhí Amanda go lá muna gratha hain. Nuair a hitse sa siomart sanóla. Bhí Claudia an chun an seo I lug a hafada. Cheol Claudia an tafada ar spáslan. Agus ní fada go raibh sé le feiceáil ar fud an dain. Chnig máiste do tuaile agus níor cheap sé go raibh sé pun granúir. Bhí sé mar hábháilí scálan ar riomhar a Claudia. An uige sin, go dtí bheachle, bhí Amanda ag lorg díaltais, agus fuair si a. Fádaí ar níl ná na rá cé bhí freagrach as a picture go Africa na sin. Is fear a rá bhéidir go ra chulaganna cinnteach.
Ba chead lád an Euro bhí mud rubig nervisiach. Is út go déit an Atlantic a gana hotjobad a rú an Evri. Agus ní laca sé mana da starm go tatsna farige gáil trasna andala.
Once her thought stock father to Niall Hayes with Joe Canning, Nish Joe. Calling you Joe. Father to Damien Hayes, the Madonna Marco Dennis Winner. Cool August on cool Forza. All along pass. TG Cabinet Bliana Sagri, Blian Jafone, to Jason Sloan.
As we now move forward into the digital age, there are many challenges, especially for the Indigenous broadcaster. Stations with more resources and innovation, such as HD and 3D, live downloading, staggercast channels, amalgamation of sales houses, and of course the recession and advertising. TG Ceathair was established over 13 years ago, and we continue to grow and we look to the future, full of hope, proud of our language and culture, and full of confidence that there is a need and a demand for the Indigenous channel, because TG Ceathair is part of what we are. I'll leave you with a short clip celebrating 13 years of TG Ceathair. Part of our schedule since establishment has been a drama soap, Ross the Ruin, and a few short weeks ago we screened our 1000th edition. Our success so far should not be lost in the present difficult economic times. Our plans, our goals, our strategy should not be coloured by the recession. Our objective is to remain a central player and to continue to educate and to entertain. The Indigenous players have an important part to play in society. The digital future is impacting on all of us, and that digital future must form part of our strategy as we strive to promote our language and culture at home and abroad. Thank you very much. Gur maith agah.
Thank you, Paul. Paul will be back in a minute in our next session. We'll have a panel discussion right now on the new vision for the digital convergence. Let's welcome our moderator, Dr. Gary Muriwa, Chairman of Elders Council of Maori Television. Joining us on the panel are Dr. Wei Huang, Board Director of Indigenous Peoples Cultural Foundation and Professor for the Department of Radio and Television of National Zhenji University. Ule Runehata, Editor of Programs at NRK Sami Radio. Paul, Chief Executive of Jijikaha. And Lin Lejing, Director of International Department of PTS.
Kia ora and welcome to Panel 1. My name is Gary Muriwai. I'm the Chairman of Maori Television, and it's my pleasure to be the moderator for this session that is going to last an hour. Just to give a very brief rundown on how we will run this session, we will have two presenters that will speak for approximately 10 minutes each, and then we have, joining the two presenters, another two discussants who are there to answer questions. Just before we start, please put your hand up and leave it up if you're very, very, very passionate about your language and culture. I'll wait while everybody puts their hand up. Please leave your hand up. They're not all up yet. That's what I want to see after the speakers, because I want you to ask us questions that we can then keep the discussion going. We're all here to learn from each other. It's very, very important that we make the most of our collective thoughts, hopes, questions, whatever you can add to the discussion. I'm going to keep it very brief because you're here to listen to the first two speakers. I'll introduce the first speaker. The first speaker is Dr. Weiwei Vivian Huan, who is board member of Indigenous Peoples Cultural Foundation, also professor for the Department of Radio and Television of the National Zhenji University, Taiwan, and also CEO of Cyber Angels PIC. And there is no spare time after that. So I will pass across to Vivian to start proceedings. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I need a screen and the PPT. My Chinese name is Wei Wei, but my English name is Vivian. Actually, when my mother was pregnant several years ago, I won't let you know, she saw a movie, Gone with the Wind. So the name of the actress is Vivian. So at that time, she decided to give me an English name, Vivian. So I got my English name first, and then I have my Chinese name by my father, Wei Wei. And the meaning of Wei Wei in in Chinese means you got more power. All right, so the topic I want to share with you is digital media and indigenous people in Taiwan. Okay, next page. Oh, sorry, my turn. Okay, as you already know, the innovation for digital media, including digital signal, networking, diversity, pluralism, and globalization. That's the reason why all of us from different countries, we gather here to discuss about indigenous culture. And the opportunity for a indigenous media includes to transmit culture and to cohere identity and to improve sense of community. I believe you can agree with that. And also to build a healthy image and to promote subjectivity. And I add another one. In the past 5 years, that's the Taiwan experience, to promote cultural products. Okay. And the challenge also for the indigenous media include the ideology and also out of subjectivity and counter effect, because if we focus more on several indigenous issues, that could create a self-isolation counter effect. But on the other hand, if we focus on the mass audience, that might lead to acculturation. So it's, dilemma. And if we use the mainstream language for our different society, that could improve assimilation. And then we lack of nature, okay? So speaking of the media and the language, actually take Taiwan experience for example, there are several factors to affect the transmission of indigenous language. The first one is the community reason. If some people, even older people, especially younger people and children, they live in the tribes, then they will get a chance to hear, not to speak, but to hear their native language. And also the second factor is generation. Generation means if the family is 3-generation family, the younger generation got a chance to practice. But if it's only 2-generation family, especially in urban city, they might lose the opportunity to practice. And the third factor is parents. The expectation and the encouragement from parents to encourage their children to learn, to hear, and to speak, and to practice native language. And the fourth factor, well, it's depends on the policy, especially from the government policy. That's the test for the native language, especially some honors for the test can pass the indigenous language test. And then the last factor is personal reason. Well, only a few young people, they are interested in learning indigenous language because on campus, most of the time, they practice the mainstream language with their teachers and also their classmates instead of using indigenous or native language. So they need to have very strong will to practice and to sustain their native language. Okay, so let's talk about the internet usage for indigenous people in Taiwan, including the urban indigenous people and also the young people also the working people, and some opinion leader from NPO. The reason and also the motivation for their use, they use the internet, including searching for information, well, like lots of us, right? And also email and communication, downloading videos and reading, also shopping, online game, internet radio, chatting. Few use internet for e-learning. And so I just categorize the usage motivation actually can be categorized for two approach. That's for the instrumental usage and ritual usage. Instrumental usage, that's for amusement, for learning, or for working, for assignment. But for ritual usage, that's just for passing the time, okay? And speak for the needs, the indigenous websites from the indigenous people. Well, they think the website for indigenous people in Taiwan, well, is designed well, but the language, they think most of the language still use the Mandarin rather than the spelling language. Spelling language means like the indigenous, the accent with the indigenous language. So they hope they got a chance to learn the native language from the spelling language. And also the young people, also the working people, they like to have more online game for the indigenous websites. And also the music, and some people, especially the people, the opinion leader from NPO, they think the website needs to improve the humanities. Too commercial. You understand? Too commercial. Lots of cultural products, lots of policy promotion, but lack of humanities. And also the problem is the speed of updating, okay? So if we try to discuss the positioning of indigenous media in Taiwan, especially facing the digital age, we will find actually take the indigenous TV station in Taiwan, for example. Actually, lots of people in the tribes, they like to have the programs major focus on tribes issues, tribal issues, rather than urban indigenous issue. You understand? I mean the community issue rather than the metropolitan issue, okay? And also, they think the TV station need to build a belt programming strategies from Monday to Friday, and major in indigenous language, but minor the other. The other including different dialogue in China, in Taiwan. The Taiwanese or Hakka or Holo. Holo means Taiwanese, okay, and Mandarin. And I think if we want to expand the audiences for indigenous TV station in Taiwan, also to catch young people's attention, maybe we should use bilingual. That means bilingual, one native language with the other native language or with the other mainstream language, so that can gather a cross-cultural effect, okay? And the last one, the short term for positioning is to reconstruct, to rebuild a healthy and confident image for self. Build a healthy and confident self-image first, especially from different tribes, okay? But the median issue, the median goal is to refresh. So we can have the programs to know the cultural difference between mainstream society and the Aboriginal society. Okay? But the long-term issue is multicultural. But the problem now for Taiwan indigenous TV station is we have focused too much multicultural rather than indigenous culture, I mean the subjectivity. And also, we have to be responsible for the digitalization for TV industry in Taiwan. Actually, lots of commercial TV stations, they just wait and see what will happen in digital era. They don't invest any money to do digitalization. They expect to see a business model from PTV. So there exists a digital divide. Actually, in Taiwan, we hope we use the internet participatory communication from cellular phone or from internet. We encourage young people, if they still stay in tribes, but actually they study and work outside, you understand? So actually, the internet news are mostly participated by college students in urban city or on campus, rather than the young people from the tribes. Maybe some, but not most, okay? So there exists a digital divide between the community, I mean the tribal community and the metropolitan, also the campus. The other reason is, although our government has the Digital Opportunity Center, lots of projects to help lots of rural places to have satellites or digital technology, but actually not every family feel they can be digitalized. For example, we produce lots of e-learning educational media, educational materials for the native language. So they just produce in disk and send to different families in different tribes. But some people from the tribes, they tell me, we cannot use it. We can only use videotapes rather than DVD or CD. So that's the digital divide problem. And the digitalization exists in most of the motel and the internet cafe in different tribes. So the children in different tribes, if they still stay in tribes with their grandpa, grandma, but their parents already moved to downtown to work, to work for life. So there exists a generation gap problem. They cannot speak with their elder generation, their grandpa, grandma, with the indigenous language. Maybe they can just hear because they stay in tribes. But they always use Mandarin on campus when they study in the elementary school. So they play the online game in internet cafe from different tribes. And they think, wow, we are to be modernization, we are going to be digitalization. But actually, they got internet addiction for internet pornography or internet cyberbullying or cyber sex. So lots of issues we need to think about that. So the last vision, we hope digitalization will bring us into internationalization. Well, I agree with that, but there still exists a gap between different tribes and metropolitan city. I think it's an important issue we need to think for our next generation. As according to the Bible, the native people from different region or different island are the firstborn people, firstborn child from the Lord. So if our indigenous people in Taiwan or in different countries, we become healthy and strong, our community, our society, our nation will become healthy and strong. Okay, I share with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Wei Wei. Our next speaker is Ule Hata, who is the editor of programs of NRK Sami Radio Norway.
Multi-content distribution. Ooh, dangerous word. Every journalist hates the multi-content word. The analog television transmitters in Norway were switched off last year. A 2-year-long process from decision to full digitalization was ended. Today, every household in Norway accesses up to 30 or 40 TV channels. This is changing the TV habits among the public. In a changing world, it becomes more and more important to be able to make a fast turn. The digital production and distribution has made it cheaper to get our content out, and it's at the same time the digitalization has boosted the competition among TV networks. This gives the NRK Sami Radio a big challenge. People can watch whatever they want, whenever they want. NRK Sami Radio's TV and radio content is scattered in 4 NRK TV channels and 3 radio channels. NRK1 is the biggest channel in Norway. Today it's distributed in full HD. NRK Super is the children channel. It's difficult for people to know when we broadcast, and they have difficulties to find our programs in the jungle of TV channels. A good on-demand service is a powerful tool in this competition. We have to develop online services that gives people the opportunity to watch programs when they want to. And still, it isn't enough. We have to take the content to them wherever they are. And where are they? The red line is the TV, and the green line is newspapers. Norway is a very special country, Samis as well. We read a lot of newspapers. As you see, it was first in 2002, 2003 that TV were bigger than newspaper. 2 years ago, the internet went past newspapers. No, sorry, radio. Today, I think internet and the newspaper is approximately the same big. The black down is the mobile phone. Half of the people, Norwegian people, is on the Facebook. We don't know if people are there tomorrow. The blue line is the Facebook. 40% of the households in Norway have a game console too, such as Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. Many of these boxes are connected to the internet. The question is this a way to get our content to children. A multimedia organization has to readjust itself to a multi-platform organization. NRK Sami Radio is today a radio and TV broadcaster, and we distribute the content on the internet and mobile network. The solution for us is to find a way to get our content to a large number of platforms without working our brains out. And what if we could converge all our indigenous content to just one on-demand service, and then diverge this to several formats that are adapted to each other's network and platforms for every member of this network? This was all.
Thank you, Ole. Right, we're looking now, after those two presentations, which were both informative and challenging, to look at a vision for digital convergence. And what I hear today, and I've heard previously, is that there is a very, what I'd call an interesting model in play. People want more, but they want to pay less. Not only the watchers, the viewers, but also, as we heard earlier on, advertisers are wanting to pay less and less and get more and more and do things a different way. There's also this power shift between the broadcaster and now the viewer, moving towards the viewer, or moving definitely to the viewer. So as a viewer, I want to watch whatever I want to watch, whenever I want to watch it, and in whatever format that I want to watch it. So that gives a very, very big challenge for us with all these different platforms and technology to make best use of it for what we actually started off with, which was how do we develop that passion for our language and culture, inform, enhance what we're doing moving forward. So those are the challenges that we've got to look at. And at the same time, there's a huge issue about freedom of speech versus ethical issues, and we heard those just touched on a bit earlier today. What I want to do is, one of our panel now is just going to make a brief statement, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. If it's necessary, there are questions that will come from the panel at the same time. So I'll just ask Lee Chin Lin to make a statement first. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gary. I guess we can. It's a great pleasure and honor to be a member of WIPIN, and in the past couple of years I had this great opportunity to visit indigenous broadcasters around the world. And as I see it, we are facing a common challenge for all indigenous people in the world is how do indigenous communities voice out their concern and tell community stories to a broader audience, even to decision makers of our country. And to indigenous broadcasters, we also face a major challenge is how can we cover our communities, every community, I mean, especially in a bigger country like Canada, Australia. It's a challenge we can never fulfill. But the digital revolution brings us opportunity like never before. Finally, probably, we can all do this. In Taiwan, we have been experimenting with a way to do it. There are two key developments as we see it. Is a low-cost digital production technology. For example, we're using equipment like this to tell personal stories. And somehow this microphone on this camera will record an interview and do wonders. No product placement here. Just an example. And These low-cost digital video production technology, along with broadband internet, enable us in Taiwan for people in the remote villages, especially indigenous villages, that's difficult even to reach. And when there are certain things happening in these villages, the story can never get out. But for public service broadcaster in Taiwan, we are able to do it now through these means. And they are doing great story. They are creating great effects. President Fan, PTS will have a complete presentation tomorrow of how we will do it. And in conclusion to my brief statement, we are very hopeful for this. We feel very promising about this development. We think it will help us, public service broadcaster, to better realize our goal, and at the end of the day, will help us all, whether regular service, public service broadcaster or indigenous broadcaster, to better promote the civil society idea with these new technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee Chin. I'd like now to open it up for questions, comments, observations. Just if you put your hand up, and we've got a microphone that we can pass around. Did I also mention that we aren't having lunch until we've had 10 questions?
Yeah.
Yes, down the front here.
Okay. Quick.
Thank you. I like just to put my question to Madam Vivian Wei, because I'm from Singapore, by the way. I'm the only representative from Singapore. We expected the multi-skill here, listen, and ask questions. Thank you. Okay. It was a distinction you make between multicultural and versus indigenous, what I call emphasis. Okay. I like to relay my experience in Singapore because I run both the commercial as well the ethnic channel. And the government has been very, very supportive of the ethnic channel simply because of the revenue possibilities as well as policies, etc. Okay? What they have encouraged is basically to move also the indigenous and ethnic channel towards a little bit of revenue making so that it can sustain in the long run to have more programs. As a result, drama, variety, entertainment, info ads, news and current affairs has more or less moved in tandem together. All right. And one of the greatest things that I may want to share with you is basically this immediate market response to changes in taste and fashions. So that when programs is recorded in January, we have to know basically the market response in March or May, because changes, actually we cannot wait until 1 year later. It's just about 3-4 months later. And this response to market changes, the immediacy of the response to market changes has been very, very important to us in terms of moving the revenue upwards. And we have been able to sustain those in the last 3 years especially. And secondly, the observation is that the youth market is also very important. The one that we're laying emphasis upon is the 15 to 39 market because they represent the most important sectors of the community because they are also in the ballot box, all right? So it's important that we move this youth culture. We lost them 3 years ago through internet, through cable, and through those people not watching television anymore. But we are glad to inform that the last 6 months, this 15 to 39 age group has been coming in drove back into the channel. And something like 60% of the Singapore audience, 15 to 39 age group, has moved back to the channel. Thank you.
Vivian, would you like to answer that question about multicultural versus indigenous?
Hello. Okay. I saw it's sharing. I don't hear the question. I think for ethnic media, because Taiwan is a society with diversity, if we focus on the ethnic people, we have at least 14 ethnic people in Taiwan, plus maybe the other one, we say Pingpu, is 15 or more. So it's a diversity here, but we only one channel, one indigenous media channel, I mean TV channel here. So one channel need to serve the 14 tribe people, tribal people with 14 language. So the people from the Aboriginal area, they cannot be satisfied with the service. But actually, the people in PTV station, they work very hard, but they need to balance because they need to take care the TV rating from the commercial part, but they also have the public interest part from the 14 people. So, you know, it's very hard for PTV, I mean, especially for the indigenous TV station here to promote. But it's in the process, I think. Yeah, it's in the process. I think the experience in Singapore is very valuable. But as Taiwan, you know, maybe it's not so large, but it's not so mini. So, you know, we still need time and need space to negotiate, to promote, you know. Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Yes.
Tēnā koe te katoa. Ule, you raised multi-content as a scare word for your staff, I suppose, because multi-content means, I understand your journalists do provide content for radio, television and internet. So my question is for you and for others is how do you divide up your labour force to produce not only the core content for your television stations, but for the other platforms?
When a journalist from Sami Radio comes to you, you would probably not be able to see if he's a radio journalist, TV journalist, or a newspaper journalist, because he or she has a camera and a microphone for radio. So we use the camera. A typical day for a VJ, video journalist, is to go out, shoot the picture with his camera, come back, write an article on the internet, take out the sound and give it to the radio desk, and then begin editing the television story.
That's why they don't like to work.
That's why. Yeah, but it's a cooperation between radio journalists, internet journalists, and TV people.
Yes.
Gary.
Oh.
Kia ora. The digital utopia that Ule hypothesised in his last statement obviously carries with it a number of issues. And Paul, when Paul was talking to us earlier, he talked about the percentage of, or talked about a large independent production sector. And one of the things that I'm interested in getting a response to is how do you intend managing, or how do you manage the intellectual property issues associated with such a large independent production community if you are seeking to expand distribution beyond your current barriers?
Well, we try and work in cooperation with the independent sector. As I said, we have about 300 people full-time working in the sector. We don't control the sector, but we must support them and work with them. We have our terms of trade. Terms of trade are the rights that we have when we buy properties, when we buy content off them. And it depends, do we fully fund the content or do we part fund the content? If we fully fund the content, we get in return rights for 5 years on all platforms worldwide. So that's where we are at the moment. On specific programs, we might, if it's part funded, we may not get rights worldwide. We may not get all platforms. But the general principle is that if we fully fund projects, we'll get worldwide rights for 5 years on all platforms. And in fact, what we would like to do is we'd like to get rights in perpetuity, and we may work towards that. The second point is, how do we work with the sector? Probably we try and be fair, try and have a clear understanding with the sector, and if the independent sector isn't strong, we won't be strong as a television company. So we must work with them, try and spread the work across the country, try and make sure that we give enough work to companies so that they can survive economically and create the jobs and sustain the jobs. So probably working in cooperation with companies and make sure that their survival is very important, because their survival is very much dependent on our survival.
Thank you. Now we have two questions in the middle here.
My name is Lin Fuyue from Donghua University in Taiwan. What I'm concerned is about what we call the digital gap, or the information gap from the mainstream society and the indigenous peoples. I don't know the real situation in other countries, but the thing in Taiwan is there really exists the gap between the indigenous peoples and the mainstream society. Just an example, some senior people, they're in tribe, they don't even know the 26 letters in English. So how can they use the computers or other digital equipments? So I've been to the tribe, I found the senior people, they just borrow a keyboard, only the keyboard back home, to practicing how to use the keyboard and recognize the 26 letters. So I'm just wondering, according to your opinion, or is there any strategy which can short this kind of gap between the indigenous people and the mainstream society, and how can you get the indigenous people easier to access those services you offer to them? Thank you.
Well, from our experience in Ireland, we wouldn't distinguish between, as we would say, Irish language speakers and other speakers. In a sense, our main customers, the Gaelic speakers, are no different to the rest of the population of Ireland. They have the same demands. They like English language programs, English language content. So in a sense, we don't treat them any different. We don't think there's any technological gap, we'll say, in Ireland, in that there is general, I think the latest stats are that about 77% of the population have access to the internet, have PCs at home, so are fully equipped with the latest technology. So I don't see there's a huge gap. The difficulty for us in Ireland, the main difficulty is this thing about digital to terrestrial television and the competition with satellite, where you have competitors like Sky who come in, they're not regulated in the Irish territory, and they beam in 200, 300 television pictures, and that's the competition for the indigenous players, that we have our own 4 domestic channels and a few more channels, and trying to probably participate on a level playing field, but without DTT rollout, we're very much at a disadvantage. So the priority at the moment for the whole of the island is that there should be DTT rollout within 1 or 2 years, and then there will be a level playing field, and we will have a much better opportunity to compete with other channels.
Yes, thank you. Up here, and then down here.
Yes, thank you. My name is Per Johannes Marainen, head of the Sami unit of Swedish Television. Madame Wei Wei Huang, maybe easier for me to pronounce your English name, Vivian. You said in your interesting speech in the beginning, or you mentioned a dilemma, very interesting dilemma, I think. You asked how, or you said, too much focus on indigenous culture might create isolation. And on the other hand, too much focus on a broad audience might create disculturation. I would like to hear your reflections, and maybe others also, what you think about this dilemma. How to make television and internet to indigenous people without creating isolation, is my question.
That's the comments from Professor Regents, 1992. Too much or too less, you know, both coast issues we need to think about. In my opinion, if for Taiwan experience, actually I already proposed in the conclusion, I think there are 3 stages for IPTV. I mean, indigenous public TV, something like that, the abstract, okay. The short term, we need to reconstruct a healthy image from the Aboriginal people, the first stage. But at the same time, you know, the first stage, maybe 70% we focus on to serve the Aboriginal people, and 30% we serve the urban indigenous people. But the second stage, we focus on to refresh. That means not only to serve the indigenous people, but also to share with mainstream society the communication problem. Why people will feel uncertainty from different ethnic. So we can share about that experience to, you know, to improve the communication problem between different ethnic people. That's the second stage. But for the last stage, I think that's an ideal world, you know, for multiculturalism. That means the indigenous TV station can produce the most Aboriginal issue program and also the most popular commercial issues. And we can respect different ethnic people, different subjectivity. That's the ideal part. And for the internet TV, I think it might be a chance for Aboriginal people to participate, to have the right to access to the media. But I'm afraid the usage, the media, the internet usage, actually, the older people, they are afraid of using internet. The working people, well, they stay and work in the city rather than indigenous area. And the young people, they study outside. So we hope they can go back their tribes and go back their ethnic area to serve their community. That's just like what happened in Israel. They have a policy to encourage all the Jewish back to hometown from different nations. Actually, I think for indigenous area, our government should have policy to encourage young people, the college graduate students, back to their hometown to build their community, and also that their community to be energetic, you know.
Okay, I just want to add some to the multimedia content. And Nathan, I'm not sure if we pay enough to our journalists working for 3 platforms. Perhaps I have to consider to hire it. But there are some positive things with multimedia too. You know, the less than half of the Sami population don't understand Sami language. They speak Norwegian or Swedish or Finnish or Russian. So we have some challenges to include those into the debate of the future Sami democracy. And we have chosen to prioritize Norwegian language on the news site on net. And we have prioritized to use Sami language in radio news. And in television, we can present the news in Sami language. Every foreign language we put voiceover on, and we subtitle all the programs, even the news programs, into Norwegian in Norway, to Swedish in Sweden, and to Finnish in Finland. So then, at that way, we reach the whole Sami population with our content, and even those Norwegians who are interested, or other majority who are interested in Sami content.
That's very good.
Thank you very much. Can you open? Oh, okay, thank you. My question is really a very practical one. Madame Weiwei, you talk about the argument that there's a bias towards one language above another. And our other colleagues talk about the exciting things they're doing in the digital front. And my question is, how do you fund all of that? What is your funding model? Because very often we want to do all these incredible things and we are constrained by money. And Paul, you're talking about, and that's the experience of the SABC as well, I'm talking about how the recession has hit your advertising income, and yet you are wanting to do all these great, wonderful things and push people into the digital era. I'm just wondering, how do you fund all of these things?
In 1994, I have started my research focused on ethnic people and media, and until now. And I have done several projects for the TV usage, media, behavior for the indigenous people, and also the focus group, and also the in-depth interview. The focus group, we have around the whole island to gather information from the tribes, okay? And also, as I'm a volunteer CEO for Cyber Angel Speak, that's cares about the young people's internet safety. Like I told you about, actually, from my experience, more and more young people, including indigenous young people, they get internet addiction in the tribes or in urban city, even the older people. I mean the working people, not the older generation, I mean the second generation. So I think some parents, they will call to NCCU to ask my help, because SCAP's help to negotiate and to solve the problem between the parenting problem. Because the young people, they use internet, they use computer, the face, you know, their face facing to the computer are smiling, but their face facing to their parents. So sad. And their face facing to the school assignment. Oh, sorrow. So their parents worry about the future, about the next generation. And I have several case studies for the Aboriginal child. The parents, they fight. They got a job and fight in the city, both from the Aboriginal area. They need to working very hard to improve their living expense in a city. But they leave their children at home, alone, with computer. So that's the reason why I think we need to value the importance of digitalization and also to facing the issues of internet addiction problem. And also, I still think the policy, our government should encourage Aboriginal people back to their hometown and also let them to have a job or can have a career dream in their hometown. So they can have a, back to their natural life, back to their nature, I mean. Because they really facing the cross-cultural struggles in the city. But I also know some friends, actually they are very successful, such as the PTV people, also the media worker, indigenous media work in city, but there are only a few people, not most of the people.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I add something from Norway?
Just, very quickly, thank you.
Yeah, the funding in Norway is regulated by the state, the government. You have to pay a license if you own a TV. And this license goes to the public service broadcaster, which is NRK. It's the best business in the world. Pay your license or go to jail.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, so I know there's a couple of questions. So could you please catch up with the panel over the lunch break? We're going to have to stick to time. In conclusion, I think there's a lot of interesting comments that have come out all about such things as market response, the youth market, a wide variety of viewers and how do you handle that, multi-content, some ideas about how people can do more than one job, which is interesting, IP issues, how do you get people that aren't used to technology using the technology, isolation and funding. A huge myriad of things that we could talk about all day, and I encourage you all to keep sharing your ideas over the next day and a half, make the most of our time together. Thank you for taking part, and we'll bring panel 1 to a conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you for all the panelists. Now we will break for lunch, and please return at 2 o'clock. We'll have the lunch in the restaurant at 2nd floor. We also encourage you to take part in the guided tour prepared by the National Museum of Prehistory. The tour will meet at the info reception at 1 o'clock. Okay. If you take your pass, the lunch is free.
好，各位来宾啊，国内的贵宾，我们在史前馆2楼，也就是我们这个楼层呢，我们所在的这个楼层，往出门右转，再一个大转弯过去，那边有个玻璃屋餐厅哦，欢迎各位到那边享用午餐。那另外还有一点哦，就是在1点钟，下午1点钟，我们在我们会场门口的服务台哦，我们有一个史前馆的一个导览。那时间大概是40分钟左右的一个导览。那史前馆的文物哦是非常非常的精彩。如果各位有兴趣，请在1点整哦到我们的资讯服务处，也就是我们会场门口外面这个服务处，请在那边集合。那我们工作人员会为各位做一个史前馆的一个导览。那这个导览有进行2天哦，2天的路线都不同， 所以可以很完整的看到史前馆所有的典藏的文物。好，非常谢谢各位的参与。那我们预计在1点50分，大家就陆陆续续回座。那2点整，进行我们下午的议程。谢谢大家。
刚刚台上的都离开了吗？人都好像都走了。
少一台吗？2楼。好，欢迎各位现在前往2楼的玻璃屋用餐，谢谢。另外，我们那个工作人员